Hello. Today I'm going to be reviewing Black Flag's entire discography. The first thing Black Flag ever put out was the Nervous Breakdown extended play. Now, this extended play was only 4 tracks long. It was only about 5 minutes long in total. The songs on it were very short, very fast, and very aggressive. To me, it's one of the first really great hardcore punk rock albums. It's highly recommended that you listen to it if you're into hardcore punk, because this is pretty much the start of it all. I mean, sure, there were a couple bands before Black Flag came out that you could kind of say were hardcore punk, but really, if you're just talking about just like mid 80s or early 80s, late 70s California hardcore punk, this is where you want to start. Now, after this extended play, it would be a long time before they ever released anything else, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to record a full album with Morris, but they never completed the sessions because Morris had ironically a nervous breakdown or something of the sorts during the recording, and one day it said that he just smashed his guitar, smashed all the tapes, and then just left the recording studio and never came back. Not sure how accurate that is, but that's what I've heard anyways. After that, they recruited Ron Reyes as their next lead singer. With him, they recorded the Jealous Again extended play. The Jealous Again extended play is a slightly longer, pretty much about the same brash hardcore that Nervous Breakdown was, although Ron's voice is quite a bit different than Morris's. Ron's voice is quite a bit more childish, not as aggressive. He's like a less mature version of Morris, I suppose. I mean, it's not a knock against him or anything. That's just the way his voice sounds. He sounds like kind of like a little kid compared to Morris. You know, because with Morris, he sounds like this crazy psycho that could run into your house and kill you. Then you have Reyes. He sounds like this, this like little kid that's just like pissed off at everything, and he's like, "Oh, fuck you, mom." Once again, it's not a knock against him. I don't hate Ron Reyes, but he doesn't have the same aggression as Morris did. Then after a while, Ron Reyes, well, he wasn't in the band for that long. He was only in the band for about a year or so. But he got pissed off at all the fans. There's allegedly one gig where his girlfriend got beat up, and in the middle of that show, he saw it happening, and he just walked off stage and said, "Okay, I'm done." And he left the band and never came back. Or actually, no, that's not true. He left the band for a while. Then they later, after he'd left the band, they recorded the Jealous Again extended play. So he made a record with a band that he wasn't on good terms with, and a band that he was no longer in. Now, don't ask me how that makes sense. It just does. After Reyes left, they started recording what was meant to be their Damaged album with their new lead singer, Des Cadena. I think it was less than a year that Des actually sung for them, because in 1981 they got Henry Rollins, and Des switched over to rhythm guitar, playing guitar alongside Greg, just as the backup. But with Henry Rollins, they finally made their debut album, Damaged. Now, this album is one of the greatest hardcore punk albums of all time. I'm just gonna say it right now. It just is. I mean, yeah, sure, there are other great hardcore punk albums, but this is just one of my favorites. It starts off with Rise Above. You know, it's a very, very aggressive song. You know, it's basically saying, you know, fuck everything. We can get through this, and we don't care if you don't like it. Second song is just a quick little 30-second thrasher called Spray Paint. Doesn't have that many lyrics, isn't very long. After that you have Six Pack, which is one of the first songs Black Flag wrote about alcohol. Black Flag wrote a lot of songs about alcohol and how being drunk will often make you stupid. After that you had What I See, which is one of the underrated songs off of this album. You know, the chorus goes, I want to live, I wish I was dead, and then it's just like, damn, that's a heavy message right there. Although it's done really tongue-in-cheek, if you hear the way Rollins sings it. After that, you have possibly the most popular song, TV Party, which is just kind of a parody. Got popular for all the wrong reasons. Which reminds me, I left out the TV Party and Six Pack EPs, but whatever. After that, you have Thirsty and Miserable, which is their second attack on alcohol. Was actually written partially by Greg Ginn's girlfriend, who was never a musician or a member of Black Flag. Or she helped write it anyways. After that, you have A Message for the LAPD, track number 7, Police Story. This track essentially just a pure rage, really. It's almost like just a separate version of Thirsty and Miserable, but the message is completely different. It's basically saying, fuck the police. Anyways. But years before, you know, that was everything. Anyways, after that we have Gimme Gimme Gimme, which is one of the more aggressive songs. Real nice. After Gimme, you have Depression, which is possibly their most depressing song. It's talking about how depression wants to kill you. After that, you have Room 13, which is kind of an odd song, Damaged number 2. The last 5 tracks are all kind of noisy and not as straightforward. Very odd songs, really. It's not necessarily saying they're bad, they're just a bit different. You have No More, Padded Cell, Life of Pain, very more experimental. After that you have Damage number 1, which was the first song that Henry Rollins ever wrote the lyrics to for Black Flag. It is a 3-minute slow song, slowest one on the album anyways, if you don't count the intro to No More. But I mean, a great song. Very frightening in the way he says, my name's Henry and you're here with me now. After the Damaged album, they would it would be 4 years or so, or no, 3 years until they would come out with My War, which is possibly their most aggressive album. Specifically the My War B-side. Not really going to give a track-to-track rundown of this one, but what you need to know is the first track, which is My War. It's titled the same as the album. Kind of experimental. It's really whenever Greg Ginn would start using a lot of his dissonance. He liked to use a lot of dissonance in the later Black Flag stuff. Very jazzy, really. And from there on you have, you know, a couple thrashers, a couple, you know, just odd songs here and there. Then you get to the B-side, which is my favorite side. It starts out with Nothing Left Inside, very slow, sludgy, aggressive song. And you'd figure, oh, they couldn't possibly make a song slower or sludgier than that. You're wrong. because the song after that is Three Nights, which is possibly the most aggressive Black Flag song that they ever wrote. The solo to that song is just fantastic, really. Very noisy and out of control, dissonance everywhere. Then My War ends with the track Scream, which was kind of toned down for the album, actually. If you listen to the demo version of Scream, it makes this version sound like a love ballad. Let's just put it that way. Then after My War, they would have the album Slip It In, which I think is one of their best, actually. Starts off with the track Slip It In, which is a very aggressive song, really. In fact, all the songs on this album are generally just kind of aggressive heavy metal songs. So Slip It In is kind of a sexual song. Has lots of sexual references in it. The second track would be Black Coffee, which is kind of like Slip It In, except without the dissonance in the intro. Wound Up, just kind of similar to Black Coffee, but not exactly the same thing. For the fourth track, you have Rat's Eyes, which is, the slow song for this album. It's reminiscent of the stuff you would find on the My War B-side. Track number 5, Aha, is an instrumental song called Obliteration. Very jazzy, freeform jazz, which they would later continue. Number 6 is The Bars, which is one of the better songs on this album. Gets kind of overlooked. Number 7 is My Ghetto, which is pretty much a power violence song. It's basically just screaming and fast guitars everywhere. Then track number 8, You're Not Evil. This is really the most experimental song off of the entire album. Lots and lots of time changes. The song pulls you 6 or 7 different directions, and it's about 7 minutes long. Let's just leave it at that. After that, they came out with the album Loose Nut. Not their best work. This is generally whenever they start to lose fans, but I will defend this album that it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I mean, there are good songs in this album, like the song Loose Nut, Bastard in Love, Annihilate This Week, Modern Man, and Now She's Black. Those are pretty much the good songs on the album. All the rest are kind of meh. Not the best work from Black Flag. Although it is one of their more produced albums. It's not as raw, which was kind of a big change for them, really, because all the rest of their albums were just the rawest thing you can imagine. Then there's their last album with the classic era of Black Flag, In My Head. What you need to know about In My Head is that it's kind of a combination of everything they did before, except it's just taken to this, or it sounds very overproduced for Black Flag is all I can say. Such as like just the song In My Head. Okay, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry, but okay, I don't really know what to say about this album, really. I mean, it's there, it's jazzy, it's heavy metal, the punk is still there, But one thing I can say is that the lyrics for this album were not the best. Such as, if you read the lyrics to the song Crazy Girl, I will say that that's one of Black Flag's worst lyrical performances. It's not to say his album doesn't have his upsides, though. I mean, White Hot is one of my favorite Black Flag songs. The song In My Head as well. In My Head has a very, very good riff for the intro, and the rest of it's good as well. Very jazzy as well, if you like that kind of thing. Out of This World is a very underrated song. I Can See You, not my favorite. It's another one of Black Flag's low points as far as lyrics go. Drinking and Driving is one of their better songs. It is generally considered one of their best songs by a lot of fans, or at least the best of this era of Black Flag anyways, because they have a lot of good songs. Retired at 21, pretty underrated song. You'll just have to listen to it. Then the rest of the album just kind of meanders until it ends. So, what I can say is that Black Flag was a very odd band. They evolved quite a bit. None of their albums try to do the same thing, really. There's always some sort of a slight evolution, for better or for worse. Now, I didn't even talk about some of their later extended plays, which were just instrumental jazz ones. I was just kind of trying to stick to, just the vocal, hardcore, heavy metal stuff, Which some people may object to me calling some of this stuff heavy metal, but if you listen to In My Head and Loose Nut, it's way more heavy metal than it is punk rock. But, as I was saying, yeah, they always tried to evolve. They were never trying to do the same thing. If their fan, just as soon as their fans got comfortable, boom, they hit you with something else. So, Black Flag was always trying to mess with their fans. If you read some of their interviews back in the day, it seems like they didn't even want fans. They just wanted to play. Which I think that's a pretty noble thing. Not bowing down to anyone's expectations. I guess they were so anti-authority that they were against their own fans. I don't really have any other insights to put on to Black Flag. I mean, just listen to their music. Greg Ginn does not pay royalties, so you don't have to feel bad about stealing money away from the musicians, because their lead guitarist, Greg Ginn, is the only one that's going to get any money if you pay for their albums, so you could probably find it really easy and just go steal all their albums. It doesn't really matter. I mean, no, don't do that. Pay for them. Pay for the albums. Yes, I don't want Greg to take this video down, which I doubt he'll ever see it, because I probably know more than 2 people are going to watch it, but still. Screw it. Just go rip it all off. Anyways, this has been me discussing Black Flag's entire discography. I'm sorry for boring you to death, and that is the end of the video.